Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here, and this is our Week 5 battle of the UBC. We are going up against Grim Reminder, coach of the Munster Maractus. He, as you can see, brought a team of Xatu, Mimikyu, Alamamola, Volcarona, Scizor, and Diancie. If you missed my team building video, I am bringing a Spadef Steelix, an Assault Vest Physical Goodra, a Wish Passing Lickitung, a Scarf Cobalion, Expert Belt Victini, and a Double Dance Landorus with Groundium Z. So this is a pretty long battle, so we're just going to hop into it. I did do a live comm, but there's no way I'm going to make you guys watch that. It was like 56 minutes. So in terms of lead matchup, I was pretty sure before the match that I was going to lead with Victini because he only had like one Mon to outspeed it, being Coco, and he hasn't even brought the Coco. So I can lead with Victini, comfortably outspeed his entire team, and maybe trick him into thinking that I'm Scarf. So I am going to do that as he leads with his Scizor. Pretty much a dream matchup for me because I can just click U-turn immediately. And he is going to bring in his Diancie and show that this is his primary switch-in. So a sort of standard Diancie, if it's Spadef, is only going to take like 25% or so from V-Creates, Bolt Strikes, or Energy Balls. So I don't have a great move to hit it. I'm figuring he's going to bring the Xatu in here on my Steelix because my rocks are pretty obvious. So I do hit that thing with a Rock Slide on the switch in, and based on the damage, I can tell that it's definitely defensive. So I don't know the item yet, but it does seem to have a lot of defense investment. I go into Victini because there's not likely anything he can do to threaten me, and I can just go for a Bolt Strike. And he brings in his Aloe, which takes a ton. This suggests that it's definitely a Spadef Aloe. So I don't know what the Spadef Aloe is for. Maybe it's for Mega Blastoise. But as you can see, I did not bring that. It also, I guess, deals relatively well with like a special Goodra. And maybe if it's a Victini that's more specially inclined than Fizdef inclined, that'd be nice. But I do have a Jolly Nature on this Victini, so I'm going to do tremendous damage. He's probably not going to stay in, but I kind of have no reason to do anything but click Bolt Strike again. I'm going to go for U-turn, anticipating a switch into Diancie. And then this turn, I'm thinking maybe he'll stay in because I clicked U-turn. But he just goes into his Diancie. As you can see, yeah, this Bolt Strike only does about 24%. So not a lot, but I can just Volt Switch right on out of here. Or U-turn, rather. And I'm going to go into my Cobalion because there doesn't seem like there's anything that this Diancie can do to threaten the Cobalion. He does get up the rocks, which is pretty unfortunate for me. My Victini had kind of been just really gaining me a lot of momentum up to this point, but I'm not going to be able to do that anymore with rocks. So nice play on his part, taking advantage, trying to get up the rocks. I'm going to go into my Lickitung here because this gives me a chance to go for a Wish. And Wish is nice because I can then go into my Victini, and even though it takes the rocks damage, I can get it up to full HP. He does reveal the Toxic on the Xatu though, so his moveset seems to be Roost, Toxic, Heat Wave, and I don't know exactly what the last move is. It's probably Flying Stab or potentially U-turn. But it's good to know that this thing has Toxic. It still can't do anything to my Victini though, and I am at a healthy 94% after taking this little bit of Toxic damage. I'm not going to be staying in for too long. I do anticipate the Diancie coming in, so I go for Bolt Strike, get off a little bit of damage on this. This strategy, like this Diancie, is proving to be a real big nuisance. Just because, like, I want to start wearing it down with Victini, but I don't think I'm going to be able to wear it down fast enough. It does not go for Reflect, which is very worrisome because he could potentially go into something like Volcarona and start setting up. And so I go for the Heavy Slam here instead of the Rock Slide, anticipating the Volcarona or the Xatu, because I do want to weaken that Diancie. If I can weaken Diancie, Victini is going to be able to just click buttons versus his team. It's really fantastic, honestly, how good Victini's matchup is if Diancie gets down. But he does make the nice switch into the Xatu, which covers my Stealth Rock play. And as you can see, with the Reflect up, the Heavy Slam does hardly any damage at all. And he does reveal the Rocky Helmet, which is going to be hard for me to deal with a lot of my Mons. But I am going to switch on out here. I think I'm going to go back into my Lickitung as I can go for another Wish. And I'm going to potentially pass into or I'm going to go for Heal Bell first to heal up my Victini and my the Toxic that I had just gained on my Lickitung. I'm going to go for Wish here on this turn as he goes into Scizor. And so Scizor is definitely something that I cannot handle. If it's packing Superpower, I'm not going to take that very well. But I do go ahead and I switch out into my Lando. I take this U-turn, it does 23%. This does reveal that the Scizor is banded, which I think is kind of an interesting bring. I thought maybe a defensive set with Roost would be better, because Scizor is a great blanket check for both Sylveon and Weavile. I guess like a banded Bullet Punch is a great way to revenge kill both of those mons, but he can't really switch in very well to either of them. Like he has to basically sack something and then he could bring in his Scizor. But that's neither here nor there. The band is definitely scary. I'm surprised he didn't click like Knockoff or Superpower there. Like I kind of thought he would go for either of those plays and not U-turn, which would have made the Landorus play even better, because then I could Swords Dance and hit anything on the switch in and basically KO it, which would have been really nice. But as it is, he's going to be able to pivot, and he goes right into his Xatu, and I get myself back up to full health. And we're going to do a little bit of rinse and repeat here. I'm actually going to put it on a faster speed while we do this. Misses the Toxic, but Scizor is going to be the safe switch in once again. I wish and go back into Lando. I think we might do this one more time before I start to make a different move. But he continues to go to for U-turn for the Lickitung, which is definitely frustrating for me because I would like to heal up my Lickitung at some point. Lickitung is taking a bunch of rocks damage, or damage from rock switch-ins. And if I can get rid of the Scizor, then Lickitung can basically beat his whole team with Wish and Toxic, which is great. But again, he's not given the opportunity to do that, which is nice plays on his part. So he U-turned into his Xatu, which he had done like the last 2 times. And I'm just going to go for Swords Dance. And the reason that I go for Swords Dance is because it is going to Oko a defensive Xatu, and it's going to potentially kill anything that's on his team. I figure he's probably going to go for Toxic, but I can Heal Bell that up later. But just this, I need to go and make this play because I need to get him out, or I need to get out of this little loop that I'm in. He's got a lot of momentum right now, and I'd like to stop him from doing so. So he's going to end up switching out of his Xatu, and he's going to bring in the Alomomola. You're going to see that I actually score a crit on this play, which is a little unfortunate for him, but it would have been a 2-hit KO anyway. I guess the only potential implication from this was that I could have gone for a second Rock Slide to cover the potential switch into Xatu. I elected not to make that play. I just clicked another Earthquake. Because if he went into something like Scizor, I wanted to hit that for as much damage as possible. Or if he went to Diancie, I'd like to hit that for as much damage as possible, etc., etc. So we do take out the Aloe, which is a huge threat defensively versus my team. It was the Mon that I lost to in my mock, and so to have that thing out of the way early is very nice. And if I do get the chance to heal up my Lando a little bit, set up, and I can definitely take a couple more Mons with my Landorus. But it is going to get down to about 64% health here, as you can see. And another Volk comes in. I have an automatic switch into this thing being my Goodra, as he charges up his Z move and goes for the Inferno Overdrive. That definitely would have taken out my Lando. I'm glad that I didn't try and stay in and prevent that thing from setting up. So I'm going to go for the Fire Punch here. So my obvious play was clicking Rock Slide. He doesn't necessarily know that I'm a physical Goodra. But it does turn out, of course, that I am that way. But if he's expecting, a water move or a rock move or a dragon move or something like that, I thought Scizor might be a decent switch in for him. But that's why I chose to go for the Fire Punch. But instead, he goes into Diancie. And I'm regretting this play a little bit because Rock Slide, it wouldn't have done tremendous damage to Scizor, but it would have done a little. It would have gotten some chip. And the Rock Slide damage would actually put this Diancie in range of my Power Whip. And as I've mentioned a few times, getting rid of Diancie would be really critical for allowing my Victini to do work, because it Okos every Mon on the team, which is nice. So regretting this play a little bit. I had better counter plays for Scizor, like going into Cobalion or Landorus or Steelix. But I don't have a great follow-up for this Diancie except for potentially trying to go for a Power Whip. or trying to pivot out. He does switch out, as I do believe I go for the Power Whip. As he brings in his Xatu, gets off some Rocky Helmet, which is stinky for me because now my Gudra's at 51%, and it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for Gudra to deal with the Volcarona. He can 2-hit KO me with HP Ice, potentially, depending upon rolls. He does 2-hit KO me with Bug Buzz. He can't Oko me with a +1 HP Ice or a +1 Bug Buzz. Like, both of those are not going to do enough. But if he just goes for 2 attacks and I bring my Gudra in, he will be able to 2-hit KO me, which is not good. So anyway, Xatu's back in, and we're going to go into Cobalion this time because I'm anticipating the Toxic. So we do avoid that, which is very fortunate. I go for the Stone Edge because I'm not sure exactly what play he's going to make. And as you can see, I am not powerful enough to do more damage with Stone Edges than he's healing with his Roosts. So I need another strategy. I'm going to go back into my Lickitung because I want to try and heal this up. He does go for the Heat Wave. It would have been nicer for me to stay in and click the Stone Edge, but because the Heat Wave would have done maybe like 50-60%. But that Xatu's been such a pain for me, and it's preventing me from getting up my Rocks. And Rocks is... It would be so nice to have up Rocks on all of these turns. Because the Scizor would be taking more damage, the Volcarona would be taking damage, the Diancie would be taking damage, all those things. So anyway, the Volcarona comes in. He is going to double as I go for the Rock Slide. I go for the Rock Slide this time because, like I said, I can't switch Gudra in on 2 hits. And I don't want this thing to like... I want to set it up for free, and if it goes for an attack, I cannot go into Gudra and take 2 hits. So I might as well just go for Rock Slide, try and get as much damage as possible. He ends up doubling into his Xatu, and I hit that thing with a nice Rock Slide. So no complaints from me. The Lando, it's still my best offensive Mon. So the fact that I'm letting it sit in here and take more toxic damage is not amazing, but I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. My Lickitung is not able to heal up this Lando as long as Scizor is alive. So that definitely stinks. But I'm going to take the damage there, and I'm going to switch on into my Victini, anticipating his Roost. But he's actually going to double, and he's going to go into Scizor, which is A-okay with me. He's going to switch on out into his Diancie, and I believe I U-turn. And this gives me a chance to go into my Cobalion. Now, Cobalion with an Iron Head obviously kills this Diancie here. I'm thinking he might pivot into either Xatu or Volcarona. So I go for the Volt Switch, and that turns out to be an over-prediction as he decides to stay in with the Diancie and sack it. Or perhaps he was anticipating my my Iron Head, or anticipating me to over-predict. Either way, the play works out for him, and I'm left having to go into my Steelix. And I take this Moonblast, and it doesn't do very much at all, which is definitely nice for me. And the Xatu is going to come back in again. Oh, no, sorry. The Scizor comes back in. I went for Heavy Slam because, again, I want to take out this Diancie. He just tried to sack it. If he goes into the Xatu, Heavy Slam is going to do decent damage. If he goes into, I don't know, Mimikyu for some reason, it's obviously going to break the disguise. He goes into Scizor, which is definitely a bummer for me. I came really close to clicking Fire Fang this turn, but I decided not to. Now I'm definitely anticipating the superpower to come out from this Scizor. So I think this is where I sack off the... no, he didn't go for superpower. He went for U-turn. As I now go for Fire Fang. So I knew that from the range of HP that I was at that I could live a superpower. But instead I ended up getting off a Fire Fang on this Xatu. If I went for Rock Slide, I could have killed it. But instead, I end up leaving it with 4 HP. So kind of a bummer. But what can you do? He's going to be able to Roost up on this following turn. And so, what do I do here? I do go into my Victini. Because I have at least 2 more switch-ins with this thing. I can do a lot of damage. I go for Bolt Strike, and he finally lets the Xatu go down. So for the last couple of turns, I've been caught making the wrong predictions, like getting the Scizor play wrong, getting the Xatu play, the Diancie play wrong. But at least this one I got right, and I got rid of his Xatu, which has been preventing me from getting up rocks this whole game, which really stinks. He is going to go into Mimikyu now, and there's no sense in me trying to preserve my Victini, even though it's the most obvious Shadow Sneak of my life. I don't want him being able to set up a Swords Dance for free, and still having his disguise up. So I stay in and let my Victini go down. Now the Cobalion comes in, and I could go for Iron Head, but there's really no point. I can really just go for Volt Switch to break this thing's disguise, and then go either into Steelix or Lickitung. I do believe I just go into the Lickitung, but we'll find out. Oh no, I wanted to go in Lickitung, but it had Red Card. So that was a really interesting tech on his part. But it works out for me because I'm going to get off an Intimidate from my Lando, and he is going to go for the Swords Dance. So he's only at +1. Not a whole lot he can do, but I don't want him to outspeed and kill my Lando. So I do finally sack the Lickitung. Lickitung didn't do a whole lot besides click Wish a bunch of times this game, but I'm still proud of it. It did what it was supposed to do. It was annoying. But now I can go into my Cobalion, and I do just go for the Iron Head as he decides to sack his Diancie. So it's 3-4. Like, it's still tough, but I'm liking our chances. I am now anticipating the superpower, and he's going to take out my Steelix here. Easy peasy. But he is at -1/-1, which means that Lando can come in here, and it can get a free kill, basically. I don't know 100% if this is, like, what sort of Scizor this is, other than the fact that it's banded. Based on the damage, it's probably, like, max HP banded instead of max speed banded. But I don't know if he's got a little bit of speed, like enough speed to outspeed my Goodra. I could have gone into Goodra here and clicked Fire Punch, I guess is what I'm saying, and then preserved my HP on Lando for the late game. But I knew that if I went to Lando here that I would guaranteed get a kill if I clicked the Ground DMZ. So he is going to switch on out. He is going to bring in his Mimikyu. Mimikyu's going to die. It's going to fall down so fast. I could have just gone for regular Earthquake and it had a chance to kill, but I didn't want to risk it. So here, this is kind of an interesting play. I could stay in here and just go for Rock Slide to prevent this thing from setting up. And in retrospect, that might have been the nice play. Just because Goodra is 2-hit KO'd by 2 attacking moves. You know, if those 2 attacking moves are either HP Ice or Bug Buzz. HP Ice is a roll, as I mentioned earlier, but in any case, the reason that I decide to keep Lando here is because I do want to save that Intimidate for Scizor if I need. After I come back in on Rocks, Scizor is going to be able to kill Landorus with Bullet Punch, but that Intimidate is something that I really want because I don't have a way to hit extremely hard on that Scizor, and so if it locks itself into Bullet Punch, I want it to be doing as little damage as possible to things like Goodra and Cobalion. If I go into Goodra here and he does decide to attack me twice, that's a bummer, but I do have my Scarf Cobalion still to revenge this thing. So I can handle that as long as I don't miss Stone Edge. So for those reasons, I do go into Goodra and go to 39% after Rocks. He does go for this HP Ice, which does a little bit more than 19%. As you can see, it's definitely a roll. He does go for the Quiver this turn, though, as I'm able to take him out with the Rock Slide. So kind of interesting that he went for the Quiver Dance. I guess he was just trying to go for game. But like I said, even if he attacked again and my Goodra went down, I had a backup plan for dealing with Volcarona, which is nice for me. But anyway, now my Goodra is at 19%. Easily going to go down to this Bullet Punch. As I mentioned, now I have this Intimidate, which I can land on the Scizor. It's going to be able to kill me with Bullet Punch. And then I have my Cobalion that I can bring in. If I had close combat on this Cobalion, this would be game. But instead, I went with a moveset of Stone Edge, Iron Head, Volt Switch, and Toxic. Volt Switch because he only had Rhydon as a ground type, and Rhydon's not coming in on Cobalion almost ever. So it's a nice opportunity to get some momentum. But he might be bringing in Alomomola versus Cobalion, and I'd love to land a Toxic on that thing because it's otherwise very hard for my team to deal with. The Stone Edge was there for Volcarona, and then the Iron Head was there for Mimikyu, Diancie, and things like that. So maybe I could have put the close combat on instead of Volt Switch or Toxic, but as it is, I'm left having to click Stone Edge. And if I can land 4 Stone Edges, each Stone Edge does about 24%. So he's at a range where he guaranteed dies to 4 Stone Edges. And with the Intimidate, with him being banded, and with Cobalion's natural defense, I can take 6 Bullet Punches. And so I do have 6 stone edges potentially, so I can miss up to 2. And as long as I hit 4 total, and I hit them all before he goes for his 7th bullet punch. Like, I guess if he goes for a 7th bullet punch, I won't have any stone edges left, and I'll have to go for struggle. But I just need to hit 4 out of 6. And you guys can, I suppose, guess where this is going, but it's even more painful than you might think. He goes for the 2nd bullet punch, and I hit my 2nd stone edge, as you see here. I'm going to speed it up, and goes for a 3rd bullet punch, and we hit our 3rd stone edge. So all we need to do is hit 1 out of 3 of the next stone edges. We missed the 1st. We are going to go down to 16%. We can take 1 more and still have enough HP. We missed the 2nd stone edge, and our final stone edge ends up missing, and he's going to be able to take us out with the final bullet punch. So it's a really painful way to lose. There's really no way around it. The battles that we've had this year in the UBC, or this season, 3 out of the 5 now have really been determined by hacks. Once I was lucky to be on the winning end of it in my match versus Greg. In my match versus Spastic, I was on the losing end of it. I missed a 90% accurate icicle crash, 10% chance to miss. This one, though, is worse than those other ones because missing 3 stone edges in a row is a 0.8% chance to happen. So 99.2% of the time we win that match. But that 0.8% is that was this time. So we're gonna drop the 2 and 3. Luckily, we only take a 1-0 loss, so it's not the worst thing in the world. We do still have a pretty good chance of climbing our way back up the standings if we can just pick up a couple wins in the next couple of weeks. Our differential still be pretty nice if we can catch those W's. But next week we do play against Professor Chip, and he's got a really scary team that we will go over in next week's Team Builder, of course. Before we wrap up the video, I do want to make you guys aware of 2 swaps that I've made on my team. So I decided to pick up both Decidueye and Quillfish. The reason being is that Decidueye is an amazing mon with amazing coverage, defog options, setup options, U-turn, ghost typing to potentially spin block, which is quite nice. Decidueye is a great pickup because I felt very underwhelmed with Serena. This is week 5 of UBC, and I had yet to bring Serena once, and that's not obviously ideal. If you know, especially for a Pokemon like Serena, which costs 9 points, I don't want to have a Mon with 9 points sitting on my bench for the entire season. So I made that swap, and then I also decided to drop the what did I drop? The Electrode and the Lickitung, and also the Whirlipede. And I picked up Quillfish with the remaining points. Quillfish is really nice because it keeps the spikes and toxic spikes options on the team that Whirlipede provided. But Quillfish is actually like a pretty usable mon because it's got a good ability in Intimidate. It's got decent support move pool with Taunt, Thunder Wave, Destiny Bond. It's got priority in Aqua Jet. It's got pretty good typing because it allows it to take on fighting types pretty well, takes on water types pretty well, takes on fairy types, etc., etc. It's got a good speed tier, and it's just a really fun mon to use. So we are going to be adding those mons to the team starting in week 6, and unfortunately the rest of the mons will no longer be a part of the team. So Whirlipede and Serena we dropped without having them ever see the field. Lickitung and Electro we both used once, which is nice. At least they contributed a little bit. And I liked the way that they performed in each of those battles, but I think on average, the Pokemon that we picked up are going to be more useful in more matchups than the mons that I previously had. So, hope you're looking forward to seeing those new mons being used. Hope you're looking forward to seeing the Baltimore Oriolus bounce back in this UBC season. So, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you check out my opponent, Grim. Really cool guy, and definitely has a cool team. He's actually one of the top 3 in our division at the moment, so he's really making a name for himself this season. So make sure you check out to my channel for more gaming and Pokemon content, and until the next time, I will see you guys later.